think in startups, it's really easy to fall into the trap.
8 out of 10 cases that the leader themselves doesn't have the right expectation. I would always recommend hiring a team instead of hiring one individual. And the reason for that, with AI, there's a lot of danger right now, but customers do not give a shit about what technology is in your product if it does not solve a problem for them. Work-life balance, I'm all for it. If the way that you want to show up as like, I am ready and capable and interested in this role is like you walking your dog and stopping to pick up dog shit,
Oh my God.
I'm not here for it, sorry.
We are back with another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast, a startup advice show where we answer the real questions about what's going on in your life and in your business. So if you have questions that you're trying to put out fires in your business, send us an email and we'll jump into it on the show. Send those emails to podcast@joelditrapani.com. And as always, I'm your host, Joel Ditrapani. And today I'm super excited to be joined by my friend, Laura Tacho. Laura is the CTO at DX, an insights platform for measuring and improving developer productivity. Laura is also one of the greatest leadership coaches I've ever met, and I've had the privilege of working with her for years. When I first started working with Laura, I had 0 engineers and literally no idea what I was doing product at all. And then step by step, she built me and my entire team up from scratch. Because of Laura's help, we went from honestly a bit of a disaster, or as I was describing it at the time, a burning tire fire of a product team, to a genuinely world-class product team that I can be proud of. I talk about the benefits of coaching a lot in this podcast. If you're tuning in, even just for a second time, you've definitely heard me talk about coaching. And that's, whenever I talk about it, I'm talking about it because of Laura and the work that I got to have with her. Because of working with someone like Laura, I was able to fundamentally change my business, and that's why I believe so heavily in the benefits of coaching. But Laura doesn't just work with amateurs like me. She works with all calibers of leaders across all industries in one-on-one settings and in running courses that I still take. Even after the years, there's still more for me to learn from her. But on top of this, Laura also writes about developer teams in her newsletter and on her Twitter. She's opinionated, she's honest, and she's genuinely interesting to read. Laura is an absolute expert at building and running great engineering teams. So let's jump into it. Welcome. Thank you so much for coming on today, Laura.
Oh, Joel, thank you for that. Such a nice intro. I'm a little bit speechless. It's so nice to hear someone, that we've had such a long relationship with, but we don't often pause to reflect on how far we've come. And we have been working together for a long time. And I always talk about you, if I could intro you, I would say that you're one of the most coachable people that I've ever worked with, and that you are a true visionary leader. But unlike a lot of other visionary leaders, you actually have the skills and the horsepower and just the pure determination to make it happen. And I think this podcast is a really great example of that, because I remember this is probably, years ago, you're talking about, oh, I want to start this podcast, or I want to put this event on, or I want my team, my vision for my team or my business is to do this. And there's a lot of people that talk a lot, right? And you're one of the few people that really, truly follows through on just about everything. You as the host don't get the spotlight on you, because you spend a lot of energy bringing people in to have great conversations. And I want all of your listeners to understand a little bit more about who they're listening to and what they can learn from you, because I think you have a lot to teach as well.
I love that. And I feel so chuffed, because the way I hope I'm talked about or remembered or thought about is someone that follows through. And so the fact that came up, I'm extremely happy. But to take the attention off me and put it back onto you, I want to jump into the world of Laura. So I've done a bit of my own description of your consulting space and of Laura Tacho Consulting, but I'd love you to tell me a little bit more in your own words.
So I have been working in software development for pretty much my whole career, and the last 8 or so years really focusing, well, probably 10 or so now that I do the math, focusing on developer tooling. And this came out of DevOps and making sure that developers had the right tools to build their software. And now I've sort of moved on to the next evolution of that idea, which is developer experience, which is really making sure that we're building a great environment where code can be written so that developers can be as productive, as innovative, as creative as possible. That leads to really great results for the business. So as you said, I'm CTO at DX. We're a developer insights company. If you're interested in developer experience, just go to getdx.com. There's lots of stuff to read, a lot of stuff that I've written. Abhi, one of the co-founders as well, brilliant person in the DevX space. Aside from that work, I'm also, as you said, an executive coach, and I mostly focus on product development teams, engineering, product management, software development teams. Clients that I work with can range from tiny startups that are just getting their legs under them, which is kind of the situation where we started working together, Joel, with Vigo, all the way up to CTOs, senior directors, VPs at Fortune 500 companies. So I really cover a wide spectrum. And one thing I find very interesting and rewarding is that I think it helps with imposter syndrome in general, because it's interesting to see that even these CTOs at super huge companies, VPs, senior directors, they all kind of have the same problems, just on a much different scale as startup leaders. And so there's something like fundamental about the human experience that we as humans just struggle with certain things in leadership roles. And I think it's very interesting getting to jump in at different sizes and scales of companies and help surface those problems, untangle them, build a better solution, and then help that team kind of propel forward to a place where they, that was maybe a bit unreachable for them before.
The more I do this podcast, the more, I'm researching the questions to ask people and the problems that people are facing in their business. And I just feel like the questions are always just the same questions reworded. There are always different phases of businesses, but it's like people face those same problems as they evolve, but they just look and feel a little bit different. But when you break them down, it's the same fundamental issue.
I would say in like 8 out of 10 cases, it's usually that the leader themselves doesn't have the right expectation, or they don't actually know what it is they're expecting. And if they don't know, they have a really hard time communicating it to their teams or teams of teams or entire organizations. And a lot of leaders are under a ton of pressure, don't have a lot of time. They're trying to get so much stuff done. They're responsible for these huge budgets. And it seems like, well, I have this really great team underneath me. I don't need to micromanage them. So I'm just going to say, vision, and I'm going to let them fill in the blanks. But when that happens, there's just so much variability in people's interpretations. They're bringing all of their previous experiences with them. Things can go off the rails pretty quickly. And so it's not micromanaging to really be firm about what you expect. What you don't expect is also the really important thing here that we often forget. You need to say, I would like this to happen, but when this happens, this is not acceptable, and come to me, tell me with enough advance notice so we can pivot the plan or we can change our approach or whatever it is. But it really does come down to expectation settings in like 8 out of 10 cases. That's a major component of where things are sort of starting to unravel.
I still remember this conversation we had a while back, and this is a little bit unorthodox. Not going into the questions, but I just feel like this is interesting to share. I remember we had this conversation a lot about empowerment versus entitlement in the way that you manage people. And I think in startups, it's really easy to fall into the trap, or in a growing startup, there's so much hype in the startup world being like, I just set a good vision and then I let my team do the good work. I've got a great team, exactly like you said. And then also some employees fall into that being like, how dare my manager tell me what I should be doing? Like, they should just be setting the vision and staying away. Whereas I think like you need to be really clear about what you expect of someone, give them freedom within that, but it's not just like make a better world. Okay, that's too vague. But when you give them the clear, like, we need these things done, we need the team to get better in these ways, that actually empowers them to do a whole lot more. It gives them a fence that they can run to when they don't expect to be given that kind of work and they just expect to come up with it on their own. Like, they're being entitled and it's not fair. Like, people shouldn't expect to not be told what to do. That's like a crazy working environment. But I always think about that, and I think it's crazy to not give people stuff to work on.
I find constraints to be very freeing. Quite honestly, I think it is easier for most people, in my experience. I don't have like large research studies to back this up. Maybe there's one out there. I'll go look after this conversation. But I think when you have constraints to a problem, the space within which you can be creative is very defined for you. And I think that leads to very creative outcomes, where if you have no bounds, there's no limits for you to push up against. There's no fence for you to run to. And I find that lack of direction or lack of alignment to be sometimes overwhelming. And sometimes it just is not motivating, because there's too much to consider, where you can get stuck in this analysis paralysis kind of mode where it's hard to make progress forward because you just don't even know what direction to start going into.
Yeah. And I guess, when you're just dropping like this huge vision on the top of the company, like, we need to achieve better access to education in the world. And then like, that's all the instruction that's being given to an engineer. it can be like, what am I meant to do today? The pressure that you're putting on that person's shoulders is probably like unbearable. Like that's the CEO's job. Okay, their job is to see how the pieces fall together. Like they pull these strings together. Whereas like an engineer needs to build things to get us there, but they need to know like what are they building? How are you solving that problem? What's the most pressing issue right now? Yeah, like I like the word constraint. That makes it a whole lot more clear. But we'll pause that
Yeah.
one there. It'll probably come back up in the questions, but we'll jump into the proper challenges today.
Let's get into it, Joel.
The first question is called, how do you hire developers? I'm the CEO and non-technical co-founder. We're looking to speed up the pace of development and hire a developer. Our product is a niche AI enterprise SaaS. I didn't know anything about software development 6 months ago. How do you evaluate software engineers? I want to make sure we're spending our money efficiently. What do the hard skills look like in these early stages? From Western Beach 5834. So Laura, this sounds pretty familiar. Hey.
Yeah, this sounds like quite a few months of our work together, Joel.
Yeah, I guess like for the audience, this was pretty much where I started with Laura. I just said, this is my problem. I have no freaking idea what I'm doing and I don't know how to hire people. So I wanted to get Laura's input on this of, for those people who have no idea that maybe they're not technical, maybe they are, but they just want to start growing the team. Where is the starting point?
Yeah, I think I would even let's take it back one step, because I think the fundamental assumption that you have there, Joel, is that this person needs to start a team and not that they just need a proof of concept or something. And so Weston Beach number, my first thing to you is that I think your product sounds very complex, right? Niche AI, but enterprise and SaaS, like that's a really hard, that's hard. Um, and I'm guessing that if you're starting to think about hiring developers, maybe you have a POC already, which is great. But if you don't have any, if you just been stitching together APIs with no code, low code tools, and you're looking to start customizing stuff, I would just say make sure that you have that first step of like proof of concept before you go hiring full-time employees. I think contractors or project-based teams can be a great solution for a lot of startups in the early days, just to confirm that the team is necessary before getting, a bunch of people on board who have quit their old jobs and now they're relying on you for income, and then you realize, hey, this is actually going nowhere. So that'd be first step. I think the second thing is understanding what kind of profile of engineer that you need. So we've got like niche, AI, enterprise, SaaS. And AI, enterprise, and SaaS, those are all going to require kind of different skills and different profiles of engineers. Enterprise company needs so many controls in place to be successful. Then you're running it in the cloud, deploying to whatever cloud provider, running it as a SaaS, which needs like subscription, commerce, like all these different things to have your customers pay for you. And then AI, like what does that actually look like? Are you just consuming AI APIs, or are you trying to build something yourself? You really just need to get like kind of write a recipe of what you actually need. And chances are you might not know, because I think, Joel, you said this person is like a co-founder, but a non-technical co-founder. And so I would ask, who's in your network, maybe an investor or someone who can help you kind of write down all the components and the recipes. And then you can start figuring out, okay, well, this chunk of skills aligns to this particular developer. This chunk of skills aligns to this particular one. You're not going to find someone who can do all the things. And I think that's a fundamental mistake that a lot of first-time non-technical founders make, is that they think, I'm going to start building my team. I'm going to get one engineer who's going to do everything. And unless that one person is Stephen Hasty, co-founder of Vigo, he is like really an exception and an anomaly. He's got the experience to back it up. And also with him being a co-founder, he's got a lot of stake to figure things out when he needs to. So, figure out really what kind of profiles you need. And then when it comes to actually hiring the people, you have a choice to make, which is like, where are you going to get candidates from? And Joel, we were at this place too. And what did you decide to do when you were in this position?
I remember it was pretty hard for me to decide if I wanted to, like, where I wanted to get my engineers based. And then it just ultimately, it was a question I asked about my whole company, is where do I want to hire people? And I just decided I don't care. They can work anywhere in the world. We're a fully remote team and we're going to have fully remote people. So I changed my mind on that a lot, but it's ended up being amazing for us. But I would say, make sure you work out the culture of your team. If you are all based in the same office, I wouldn't hire a remote team. You're going to have a bad time. But if everyone's already remote and you have those functions in place and those mechanisms in place, then the world is your oyster. You can go anywhere. Like your talent pool is freaking massive.
Yeah, and I think for this person with such specific needs, trying to do an in-person team, I think is going to be really hard. Going remote fully makes it so that your company is being built and established with really durable processes, really persistent communication. Lots of those things benefit the company as a whole, but also are required for remote work. And having a remote first team is just going to open up the talent pool for you. My general recommendation is that sourcing is going to be a way better way to get candidates in the door than just putting a job post on LinkedIn. And it's also so crucial at this point, as you said, Joel, because these early hires are really defining your engineering culture. And so you want to be very cognizant of not just their technical skill, whether they can actually get the job done, but also are they the kind of person that you want to help establish engineering culture and help establish the culture of your company. Because at this early stage, the benefit can be huge, but the damage can also be huge. It's generally risky. Another thing that I would add here is that when possible, if your finances allow, I would always recommend hiring a team instead of hiring one individual. And the reason for that is if you're hiring one individual, the pressure to get someone that checks, okay, do they know AI? Have they done SaaS before? Can they do enterprise? Do they know AWS, Google Cloud, all this other stuff? Are they a great app developer? Can they do front end? The pressure is just huge to get someone that checks all the boxes. And the people who can do that, again, there's Stephen Hasty and there's probably other people out there, but these people are really hard to find. And then if you can find them to convince them to work at your company, that's another hurdle. But if you build a team and you can spread those skills out across people, then you can start building something cohesive and start getting those motions, those teamwork motions in place already. And you're going to have a much better result over time.
I think you covered so much important ground there. I love it. I think, to go all the way back to the start of the conversation around, do you need a developer or not? Like, is this idea worth building? I love that as a question you should ask yourself at all stages during the business. But I knew today I was going to cram in this one quote from you. I didn't know where, but here is where I'm going to cram it in. When Laura first started coaching me, I had been like kind of working with another product coach who's like kind of like a product radicalist, a real product purist. And he was just like, it's all about product. And he forgot about the fact that you're a business as well. It was product over business. But Laura, you said to me, no money, no mission. And I just, I love that so much. And it kind of sits here as well. Okay. Like at the end of the day, like you said, you're building a niche AI enterprise SaaS. That's a mouthful. You are building a business. Okay. You've got a mission. You're probably trying to change the world. But if you can't make money, you don't have longevity here and you can't maximize or work towards that mission. So at every stage, you need to be making sure that the product you're building and the company you're building is a fundamentally good business that can grow. Because otherwise, hiring is a waste of time. So I love that. Start there. Okay, start with the business side and validate that market however you can.
I think with AI, there's a lot of danger right now that it's trendy and like it's very interesting from a technical perspective, but customers do not give a shit about what technology is in your product if it does not solve a problem for them. And so, we've seen this with like all the blockchain startups that are, who knows where they are now, like in bankruptcy or whatever. The technology that you're using should be the least interesting thing about your business. The problem that it solves for your customers, the problem that is so important to solve for your customers that they will give you money to solve it for them. That is what needs to be established. And everything else can fall in line from there.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, assuming that I agree with so much of the rest that you're saying, surround yourself with someone who's done it. Find the profile of the developer you need and make sure that profile matches with the the profile of your team as well. Okay, work out what kind of person will fit in with your team, and that fits you. Are they remote? Are they in person? What I wanted to dive into a little bit more is that this person is a non-technical founder, and that's what I am. And starting was super overwhelming for me because people were speaking about like tech stack, like different tech stacks and different elements of the back end on the front end, or their hard skills and their experiences. And I was just like, what are you talking about? And how can I possibly hire someone? And I'd say, the things that worked for me about how I was able to hire great engineers is, one is that I worked with Laura. Like that was huge for me. Okay. So I surrounded myself with someone who had tons of experience. Then I lent on the people in my team, so my technical co-founder, who had some experience. He's not like he's not in the space where he would go and do the hiring, but he could help me still check, is this person technically full of shit or not? So like lean on people where you don't have the skills. But then the piece of advice that I want to give, and I give like a different version of this piece of advice a lot, is that get the reps in. Just do tons of interviews. I'm pretty sure I calculated that I did about 70 interviews to hire my first software engineer. And that is like an obscene amount. And you don't have to do that moving forward. But I was able to really understand, engineers and engineering as an industry. Okay. Like, what type of people go into this? What are the ranges of different people? What do they care about? What kind of backgrounds do they have? What do they study to get here? What do they do on their weekends? Like, what do they care about from my side? What parts of my story resonate and not? What's the right kind of interview process to go through? How do I pull the right information out? That happens when you do something 70 times in a row. And it is exhausting, and you're going to burn some candidates.
Yeah, as long as you are communicating transparently with the candidates who are in the discard pile, because with 70 interviews, right, you're ideally only moving forward with maybe one or two. That's a great way to get some experience in. You can't understand what a great interview feels like or sounds like until you've had a shitty one. And those just come with time, as you said, or maybe as I said, I got to get the reps in. You just got to see something from start to finish and get the practice in so that you can recognize and make an assessment. That's how intuition is built. Intuition is nothing more than just thousands of little experiences that form in us and get us to sense whether something is going the right way or the wrong way, which is why it's like the curse of the expert or whatever, where, if I ask you something about ed tech, you'll probably just be like, oh, well, it's, it's so obvious that it's this. It's because you've just built up all of this intuition. The same way it will come for interviews where you can get on the phone with someone and honestly within the first 5 minutes know if this is going to go anywhere or not.
Yeah, I guess, one thing as well that I didn't understand when I first started interviewing the engineers, the 70 of them, was there are tons of different kinds of engineers and they have heaps of different specialties. And I didn't realize that. I was just like, engineers are engineers. Like, no, they write and speak different languages. They care about different things. Like, even within the engineering world, there's less and more technical. So like, when I was just speaking to engineers, I was like, oh yeah, that person would not be interested in this as well. So like you start to find where the overlap is. But you mentioned, Laura, that of the 70, there's going to be some shitty interviews. But I also just thought of one story that you told me that I just want to quickly check this is true, because I've been telling this story and I want to make sure it's true. This is bonus, okay? Here's how not to do an interview. So I'm under the impression that Laura was also hiring an engineer at one point, and as she was going through the hiring process, one person logged on to a call and they were just walking their dog on a call, and which is like already like feels to me like a pretty unprofessional way to take an interview. Like, I want to be there, I want to be present. This person's just walking around, like stopping, starting, and during the interview, he's just like, sorry, I gotta stop for a bit. He stops, picks up dog shit, and just keeps on going. Just like, what a wild
That did
way
happen.
to take an interview. Yeah, okay, it did happen. All right.
Yeah, I've had.
Did that person make it through?
Yeah, that did happen. Absolutely not. I mean, I was interviewing for a fully remote team, and so if you're like work-life balance, I'm all for it. But if the way that you want to show up as like, I am ready and capable and interested in this role and I'm capable of working remotely effectively, is like you walking your dog and stopping to pick up dog shit, I'm not here for it. Sorry. That's one of those like end the interview after 10 minutes just to like be polite and then send them a follow-up saying, this is not going anywhere. I've also had or my boss previous manager had someone do an interview from the beach without their shirt on. I've
Oh
had
my
someone
God.
have their drying underwear laundry in the back, like right, like they were taking it from like their bedroom. Um,
God.
and I think this was like before we could blur our backgrounds or whatever, but they didn't really check to make sure, like, oh, am I in a like an environment? And I mean, we're talking about like way pre-pandemic. This is like 2015, 2016, maybe. Um, and so it wasn't like people were just like trying to make it work. It was like these were people who were, yes, I want to work on a remote team. This is my remote office. Like this is it's just like I think everyone has a threshold for like what's acceptable. On other teams, they maybe have cameras off as a policy. We had generally cameras on and always made it explicit for the interviewee that we would have cameras on during the interview. That was something we told them ahead of time. And we could have probably a whole other hour-long episode about interview process, interview prep, how to conduct interviews really well. But long story short, that it was not a surprise that they were on camera, but I was surprised by what happened.
The interview with their shirt off is absolutely wild. Like, goddamn. Have some decorum, people.
I don't know what
But
I would have done, honestly. I'm glad it wasn't me. I'm glad it wasn't me.
all right. Well, let's bring this one to a close for Western Beach. So, look, this person's a non-technical co-founder. They're looking to hire their first engineer. Where do they get started? First thing, as always, make sure your business is as viable as you can. Okay, like get as much proof as you can that this is a good business. So go and get traction any way you can, whether it's I don't know hundreds of phone calls or whatever you need, but get the traction. Then when that's the case, you're not technical. That's okay. Lean on people around you. Okay, there are people in your network. And even if there are people you don't know, just reach out to people who are great engineers and ask for advice or CTOs and ask for advice. People love giving advice and people will help you know what to look for. If you can and you can afford it, I would recommend getting a coach to coach you through this as well, because this is a tough process that can really make or break your business if you do the wrong or the right thing. Then get really clear on the kind of engineer you want to hire. Okay, what kind of person are they? How do they fit into your culture? What is your culture? What kind of engineer do you need? What's the skill set that they need? What level of experience do they need? I would just always opt wherever you can, get the best possible engineer you can. Don't mess around in the early days with people who are still learning. You don't have the time or money for that, because it's just going to be expensive to fix later. And then lastly, get the reps in. Okay, run a good process, and that's a whole other thing about how to run the process. But just run a good process. There's tons of good content out there about that. But just get the reps in and speak to as many people as you can in this space, because you may not be a technical co-founder, but you need to become competent in this space, and that will come from getting experience in it. Anything major I've missed there, Laura?
No, I think that last point is so important. You might be non-technical co-founder, but it's still your responsibility to figure out and understand how software is delivered and built, because it's your business and you need to run your business.
Yeah. Just because you're non-technical doesn't mean you can be non-competent. I'm gonna get that on a shirt, maybe. Okay, let's close that one out, and we'll move on to the next challenge. This is another one that Laura and I have had many a conversation about. This is called hiring women as developers. I'm still pretty new to product, and my business has just raised a seed round. Right now, we have one engineer and a technical co-founder, and we need to grow the team. By the way, both are men. I've been looking for a while, and every single application is just another man. Is it even possible to find a woman to join your engineering team? Is it even important? And this is from a few years ago, Joel. It's from me. I couldn't find a question that accurately represented the conversation I wanted to have, so I just wrote one. So this was a problem that we went through. Okay, we so many applications that came through, and everyone I could find was just like another dude in the space. And I remember like how much you called me out on this, which I love. So what advice would you give to someone in this space, Laura?
Yeah, well, here's where the tough love comes comes in coaching. I was about to ask you if this was a joke question that you wrote, because it is it is you a few years ago, and I really appreciate you being so transparent about your own learning journey, because I think a lot of people might feel, I think it's easy to dunk on people who are in the same situation of like, wow, I'm finding it really hard to hire women on my engineering team, what am I supposed to do? And like, us coming and saying like, oh wow, that's a shitty attitude to have, or like, wow, get with, it's 2024, educate yourself. That's not really helpful, because like there's a real struggle here. And so here's a few things that I told you that I'll share with all of the listeners here. First of all, two is a coincidence and three is a pattern and a habit. And so in this case, this Joel a few years ago question of like, I've got two people on my team, they're both men. I'm only getting male applicants. If you hire a third one, your chances of getting more diversity onto your team, whether it's a gender minority, racial minority, whatever, just gets so much more difficult because no one likes to be the token person. Um, and so I always say like two is a coincidence, three is a pattern. If that third hire is another man, then you're pretty much setting the tone of like, it's not very important to us to have gender diversity on our team. Which for some people, like that's a choice that you have to make. Teams that have gender diversity are shown to have better business outcomes. So is a better business outcome important to you or not? And if the answer is like, it's not actually important that we have better business outcomes, then, sure, do whatever you want. Obviously, I will always advocate for having diverse engineering teams in lots of aspects of diversity, but especially gender diversity. The second thing I want to touch on is really, I think, the key to why it was such a struggle to find women was that you said all of the applicants are men. And I think this also touches back on the first question, which is like, where are you going to find these engineers to come and work on your team? If you're putting a job posting on LinkedIn, expect like 99.9% men, and like a very few women to apply. There's lots of reasons why this is the case. I mean, one is just we can't ignore there are more men available on the job market now than women in software engineering generally, and that's been the case for most of history, most of software development history. It's changing, of course, but it's still the case that predominantly there's more men available. The second thing is that women generally don't apply to jobs where they feel they don't meet every single requirement, whereas men will just like take a shot. And so your job application or your job requirements listing might be seen as like a firm list of must-haves to women, where it's seen as like guidance or nice to haves by men. And that's going to really influence the kind of people that choose to apply. Also, if women are so in demand, generally speaking, that a woman who is a very good developer probably has a great job that they're choosing to stay at. And so they're not out there applying for jobs, especially not to your company. And I know everyone wants to think their company is the most amazing thing, but like it's not that interesting. It's not that interesting. In the world, there's so many other opportunities out there that you really need to be proactive and explain why your opportunity can give them so much more than the opportunity they have right now. Whether that's growth opportunity, leadership opportunity, whatever other motivation they have. So switch from a pure application, inbound, to also sourcing and doing highly personal crafted reach outs, which is, Joel, what we worked on, and had quite a bit of success with just getting people on the phone, getting them on that first interview so that they could learn more about you, no pressure. It's kind of more like a sales call, really, for you to sell them on the idea of joining your team. Because especially in the early stages, when you're trying to get someone to join your startup, you're really selling them you as a founder and not necessarily even your company, because there's just not a lot there yet. It's really like, do they trust you as a founder? Do they trust that you're going to build something great?
Yeah. I think there's so much information out there about why having women and diversity in general in your team is important. So I'm not going to try and reiterate that, because that's just another white man reiterating, messages that aren't asked to share. But I think there's just, it makes your team way better, and that I was really hoping you would say that exact quote again, which is that two is a coincidence, three is a pattern. Like, that hit me so hard because I was getting sick of the hiring process and I just wanted to just hire whoever came up next. And when you said that, I was just like, fuck. Like, I have to go back to the drawing board. And I do think you're right, and I felt really uncomfortable having these conversations with you at the time because I was nervous I was just going to get so dunked on because I was like, classic, just like shit all over me because I've just got dudes. But like, I love the fact that you were happy to have like an open conversation with me and teach me about this space, and I think it's made me much more conscious of it, not just in my engineering team but across my company. And I do think it's awkward though. I think it's an awkward space when you don't really know about it. And that's why I wanted to bring it up today so that people can hear like, it is hard and it's hard to understand if you're just like doing this for the first time as well and you've never hired or led people and stuff like that. So surrounding yourself again with people that know this, I think is really important. But I remember one thing that did make me feel uncomfortable in this space, Laura, was I just felt like, you know, I was looking like I needed to hire someone quickly, which was one pressure I was feeling. The other one was just like, well, I've got two people. Like, does that just mean that I just have to hire a woman next? Like, does that mean like there's no point even interviewing men? Like, that's kind of seems crazy. And and I guess like what I love is that you just brought it kind of back down to business terms for me that like diversity is a lever again, and it's just about how important that lever is for you. So it's just like if you need someone right now because something needs to get done, then hire quickly, and like that will just reduce your chances of hiring a woman because you've got this oversupply of men that can go into this. If you've got time, take your time, do the right process. In general, you probably end up with a net better hire anyway because you're taking more time to do it. But you never like suggested to me, and maybe I'm misremembering this, but the way I remember it is that you never suggested that you have to hire a woman right now. Like that's the only thing. What I love was that you said, no, you have to increase the odds coming into it. So make sure you're interviewing more 50-50 at that first stage. And obviously run a pretty gender neutral, like a non-biased process. But if you're bringing the right amount of people in at the start stage, let the process look after itself. Okay, just because you have 50% men, 50% women, that might mean that 10 of the great candidates are women. It might mean 10 of the great candidates are men, just by chance of the people you bring into your process. But just in general, try and increase the odds up front, and that will come through the kind of outreach. And that made it feel a lot easier to me. I just needed to interview more evenly at the beginning. I didn't have to have like this target on the back end.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's a lot of debate, there's a lot of opinions about hiring quotas or like what the right team structure is. My approach is always that, so first of all, talent is widely distributed, equally distributed, but opportunity is not. That shows up in a lot of different ways. A lot of ways that you can't impact. Like you cannot go back in time to everyone's like first grade class or their kindergarten class and like try to encourage more girls to like get interested in coding because like a lot of the things happen all the way back there. That's totally outside of your control. But what you can control is that you are going to give equal opportunities to women as to men. And so, really, what that looks like is we know that women don't apply to jobs in the same way men do. And so, if I'm only doing an application based process, am I really giving equal opportunity to both women and men? Like, probably not. Also, it's in your business's best interest to get the best candidate, right? And so if you're doing things that are actively excluding a huge percentage of highly qualified candidates, that's a stupid thing to do from a business perspective. So don't do that. Bring in more balanced candidates that are high quality and then let the process take care of itself. Like have a process that you've proven out to be non-biased and capable of hiring the right person, and let things happen. I know there's other companies, and I've made this choice before to say like, wow, we really need to like diversity is a severe gap in our team. We need to address this right away because we're building a product for women, men, gender minorities, racial minorities, and we don't have that representation. And so if you can think about like a restaurant creating a menu and there's no one with food allergies on the team that's doing the menu, or no one who's a vegan or no one who's a vegetarian, you're not going to have a great menu that caters to a general population. And I think the same about engineering teams. We need that representation. We need the team to reflect the population that we're building for, which in case of edtech, that's highly important because like now we get into some sort of like ethical and moral considerations, because these are, it's giving access to education for everyone. And so we want a team that looks like everyone to be building the product. And so just make it so that your process is going to bring in the rich tapestry of experiences and demographics so that you can get a team that most closely represents the people that you're building your product for.
Yeah. And I will just touch on, the outreach we did. We had to go through a lot of iterations, and I talk a lot on this podcast how I'm the king of cold outreach. And this is actually where I learned that skill with Laura, and Laura really helped me learn this because I had to go for a very specific reason, and it took a while before our messages started to hit, like started to get some kind of responses. Because with anything, if you just go too wide or you go too broad or whatever, you're not gonna get cut through. You need to get the right messaging. So we had to like actually take the time with this. I would rather send less really good messages. Actually, I'd rather send less good messages than tons of shit messages. I also wouldn't want to spend like only a tiny handful of great messages as well. Okay, like there's a spectrum. You still need to send some bulk, but get custom. First of all, understand the kind of people. So find the right people for you. It's not just like, is a woman tick? That's not it. Like, does this person fit the profile that you're looking to hire as well? Do they have the right skills? Do they care about the right shit? And there are proxies online you can find for that stuff. Then when you're reaching out to them, tell them why you're interested specifically in working with that person. And what is about the most interesting, and what is it about you that you think will be an interesting fit, and try and get to that conversation. And yeah, so to put the time in there to do that, and you'll have good success. And just get really creative. The person that Laura and I ended up hiring when we went and ran this process, we reached out to tons of people, and there was this one person in particular that we really wanted and just was going to be the best fit. Like, they seemed like the mission, the things that they cared about, the way they built the community was amazing. And we couldn't get onto them through Twitter or through LinkedIn or through email. And we found that they'd had like a pretty old open source project out in the world. And that open source project, you could like buy them a coffee or send them like a donation. So I sent a donation for a coffee that said like, hey, I want to hire you for XYZ reasons. Like, I'd love to have a conversation. Like, here's a coffee. And that got it. What a great way to start a conversation. Like, I came in and just like the most interesting path to this person about something that they hadn't had for years, and it's like still like really important to them and stuff like that. So get creative in the way that you reach out to people, because you will find better people when you do that. When you put the work in to find cool people and to reach out to them and have cool conversations, you will just build an awesome team in general. So yeah, let's
For sure,
maybe we'll try and wrap this one up here. So, is it important to hire women or to focus on diversity in your engineering team? It's like fundamentally, absolutely, overwhelmingly yes. Okay, there's just no world where it's not. How do you? Is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. It's not possible if you make no effort, but if you make an effort, it's absolutely possible. Just like everything, you can get good at anything you set your mind to. The way you do it is you do outreach. Find the right people to build your team. Reach out to them, sending custom messages that are meaningful, and you will find people. It might take a little bit longer, but once you've started, you've got a bit of a pipeline that over time will be a lot faster when you hire as well. But in general, if you're hiring early engineers, it's going to be a slow, shitty process anyway. So you may as well do it right the first time. And I think that's everything for summary. Anything major I've missed there, Laura?
Nope. I think you wrapped it up really, really well.
All right. Well, a few years ago, you've been advised. So that's all time we have for questions today. But we do have a newer segment. It's only been on a few podcasts. It's still in experiment mode. So let's jump into Pitch Please. So Pitch Please, the card game, is the official sponsor of the show. And as you all already know, it is a card game I created. So I am officially sponsoring the show, but it still counts because it's still a sponsor. But essentially, the way this works, the game is simple. We both draw a random product card and a random customer card, and then we pitch the most absurd business we can imagine, and then we work out who won that. It's just a quick 30-second pitch. So I'll go first because Laura's never played this game before, and I play this all the time. So my cards are going to be a Ouija board for robots, which is just a great combination, So Ouija boards for robots. With AI, robots are obviously getting a whole lot smarter, but they're not getting a whole lot more emotional, and they're definitely not getting a whole lot more woo-woo or in touch with the spiritual side. What better way to take robots, and specifically AI, to the next level than custom-built Ouija boards, okay? We don't just have ancestors. Robots have decades and close to 50, 60 years of computing that's existed. They need to get to their roots as well so they can understand where they've come from, so that really together we can understand where the future of robotics is going. So you can invest in my business, Ouija boards for robots. We're going out for a seed round later this year. All right, so that's my business, Laura.
I think my robot vacuum needs a Ouija board. You know what? I would like to get my robot vacuum more in touch with its ancestors because it's not doing a very good job right now. It needs some generational pressure. I love it. All right.
Your product, shoes for alien abductees, which is an interesting combo.
Okay. There's so many directions I could take this.
It's good. It's better than having no directions, which I felt like I had when I first started.
Okay. So I can't formulate this in a great pitch right now, but here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking either we need shoes that are designed to be comfortable when you're not touching the ground, because you're going to be in space all the time. Good. So that's one thing. But also I think like radiation proof shoes. It's like, yeah. So we know about like, what is it called? Grounding when you're on, when you just like have your bare feet in the ground. But what happens when your earth vanishes from underneath you and suddenly you're in space and can't protect yourself from the harmful radiation that is coming in through your feet soles? That's why you need these alien abduction radiation proof shoes that are going to insulate you from harmful radioactive rays and electrical pulses so that you can keep your inner peace while being abducted, because you never know what might happen.
I'm imagining just tinfoil covering the shoes. Don't just wear tinfoil on your head,
Totally.
wear tinfoil on your feet.
Yeah.
Same
principle.
So the
Same
cost
principle.
is cheap. I like it. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. That was a great round. I love that as a business. So that brings us to our last segment of the show, my favorite segment of the show, which is plugs. What's going on? What would you like to plug at the moment?
Well, if you are interested in learning more about developer experience and all of the developer productivity frameworks, I've written a lot about it. You can go to getdx.com and find that out. You can also go to lauratacho.com and read my blog there. Follow me on LinkedIn, Laura Tacho, Tacho. There's only one of me, so you'll know that it's me. Otherwise, I have a course on developer productivity metrics and measuring development team performance. If you go to bit.ly/Laura Tacho, all one word, it will redirect you to the course landing page. You can sign up for the waitlist or see if I'm running a cohort in the future.
And I'll put all those links in the show as well. My plugs, first is I'm plugging Laura. That sounds weird. I'm plugging Laura's stuff. Laura's writing is awesome. If you want to get consulting or coaching, go to Laura's website, look it up. Like, it was just insanely valuable for me. I can't think of anything that I've got a higher ROI on than the consulting and coaching that we work with Laura on. And then, as always, selfishly, I'm going to plug myself. Get your phone out right now, like and subscribe, 5 stars, positive, hilarious comments only. We take feedback privately and we take praise publicly on this show. So share with all your friends. And as always, steal a phone, go out, find a random's phone, take their phone, like and subscribe. It's for a good cause. You can give it back afterwards, and then they've just got a great new phone, a great new show to listen to. And then thank you to everyone who writes questions in, specifically to a few years ago, Joel. We really loved his question today. That was my favorite. But if you have questions, send them through to podcast@joelditrapani.com, which, as always, we know is a mouthful, so will also be in the show notes. And I have a booking link in my show notes as well. So if you want to have a conversation about what's going on in your life or in your business, I love talking about this stuff nonstop. So book some time. And the only thing is that if you come on there, you can ask me any questions you want, but I will ask you questions about the podcast as well, about how I can improve it. So, yep, love that. So we're going to wrap this one up. Laura, thank you so much for coming on and having the same kind of arguments and debates with me again today. I love them so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. And to everyone else, this has been another episode of the Do As I Say podcast. We'll see you all next week.